So, as you guys see, we are starting a brand new series called Creatures of Habits because, well, we're starting a brand new year off, and it's a good time to kind of review ourselves and see what kind of habits we kind of have in our lives, and maybe some habits that we can change, some habits that we can grow in. So, earlier I asked you the question of what is a habit you wish you did not have. Some of you guys had some serious ones. Some of you guys had some funny ones. Here's some of the stuff that you guys said. Someone said forgetting people's name after 15 minutes, interrupting my family during dinner, eating all the snacks in the pantry, someone saying sleeping in class. I feel like someone roasts them all the time because they say, I hate my habit of roasting people so badly. So I feel like they're roasting you, but you just want to say that. Just kidding. Here's one that I think that most boys and men can relate to. Staying in the bathroom on your phone. Anybody? A little bit longer than you should. Picking boogers. Someone said jumping to conclusions. Other of you guys said it was a serious one, thinking bad about myself and hating myself. Jumping to conclusions. Procrastination is a good one for a lot of people who like video games. Fortnite's a bad habit. This one, I know where it's coming from because it's like one of my, I guess I could probably say a pet peeve. But someone said asking my husband to carpool when he is not expecting it. So that's something my wife did this morning. Still love you and everything. So love you a lot. And someone said just eating bad food. So some of you guys had some bad habits there that you wish you didn't have. There's a lot of habits in our life that we really wish we didn't have. But in order to change that, we have to understand what a habit really is. So I went to Google, right? And I typed in what is a habit, and I looked up on dictionary.com. This is what a habit is, according to them, because the internet always wins, right? A habit is a settled tendency or unusual matter of behavior. The second definition is one that I really like a little bit better, because I think it really, it says an acquired mode of behavior that has become nearly or completely involuntary, right? I think a lot of you guys can relate because a lot of you guys had stuff in there that you wish you didn't have. It just happens because it's a habit that we have. I didn't really stop there. I wanted to find out a little bit more, so I did some research in psychology to look about habits, and this is a psychologist named Wendy Wood, and this is what she had to say about habits. She says that we find patterns of behavior that allow us to reach goals. We repeat what works, and when actions are repeated in a stable context, we form associations between cues and responses. Cues and responses. So we start to form these habits because of cues and responses. When I was in college, my first year, I could not study. I could not write a paper. I could not do anything in college when I was in the dorm. Because the dorm was crazy. It was full of college guys who pretty much act like little kids. Like they're like, oh yes, I'm finally away from home. I can do whatever I want. I can play video games whenever I want and turn up the TV as loud as it goes because my mom and dad aren't here. So and they run up and down the hallway, and I could tell you story after story. People pulling pranks. I pulled a lot of pranks in college. I could tell you some great ones to do if you ever want to do any of them. But anyways, I couldn't do it. So I needed to find a spot where I could study. So I went up to the library, and I did a lot of research in the library. What was a perfect spot to make sure that no one would ever find me, no one would ever disturb me. I couldn't hear people making copies on the copier. I couldn't hear the, hey, can I borrow that book when you're done? Because that annoyed me all the time because people were always asking for books and stuff, and then people eating, right? Like I'm not calling you out, but like people eating, like You know when you're in a library, I don't know if you've ever been there where like there's like chips and stuff and like like just open the bag already. Stop going slowly. Just, rip it like a Band-Aid, right? So I found the perfect spot in the library. It was a 2-floor library, and there was a spot because in Missouri, they have basements, and here in Houston or in Katy, there's like no basements because there's hardly any tornadoes here, but in Missouri, there's a lot of tornadoes. They had a basement, and there was like a room that no one ever went into. So you had to like schedule yourself to be in that room, and no one ever reserved to go in that room, so I always went in there and never got in trouble for not reserving it. But I knew that no one was going to bother me, and that's where I did my studying. And it was crazy because when I sat down on that chair, I remember so vividly how it feels. I remember the desk, exactly how it feels. I remember how cold it was. I remember the distinct smell of that room. And every single time I sat down, I created a habit for myself to focus in and study. I'll spend hours there, and my brain knew that each time I sat down on that chair, that was super weird because it was like a rocking chair, but like a chair, like a regular chair, which was really weird because if you barely leaned back, like the whole thing would go backwards. It was really annoying, but I knew like how to sit right so I could just focus on. So I created a habit to be able to study. And when any friend of mine would say, hey, we're going to go to Starbucks and study, I'd be like, oh, sure, I would go, but I would never remember what I read. I couldn't read books. I don't know how people go to coffee shops and like read books because there's like noise and there's music and it's weird. Like to me, I created a habit that I need to be in a place where it's quiet, no one's talking in order for me to focus in. But some people create habits by going to coffee shops and just listening to conversations and stuff like that. And they could do that. That's cool that they can do it. But I personally cannot do that. So I created a habit out of myself when I was in college. And some of you guys may know what I'm talking about, not in the same way of finding a place where you could study, but I know that some of you guys, when you get home from school, when you're done with schoolwork, maybe you're walking through that door, and your first instance is to either go upstairs, if you have a second floor, and go to your room. Maybe it's throw your backpack in the same place, then you jump on your bed, and then you pull out your phone, and then you start Snapchatting. You go on Instagram. You may not do that. You may turn on your Xbox, your PlayStation, your Nintendo Switch as soon as you get home. And you do that every single time that you create a habit out of it, that when someone disturbs that habit, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird when someone throws you off. And it might not be that. But you guys create habits out of yourself that when someone changes it, it kind of messes you up. Like this morning when my wife, Angela, I was not expecting her to say, we're going to carpool today. So I had my plan. And when I have a plan, I want to execute it, right? And right now, Chick-fil-A has free Chick-fil-A, like free entrees right now on Wednesdays. So if you guys did not know this, you need to tell your parents next Wednesday, you need an app, Chick-fil-A app, but you get a free Chick-fil-A entree. Next week is the spicy chicken biscuit, just so you guys can know. I always go to 2 different Chick-fil-A's. It's not stealing because it's free. They're giving it to me. I scan the app. They give it to me. I smile. They know why I'm there to get free Chick-fil-A, okay? It's not stealing. Well, anyways, my wife said, hey, we're going to carpool. And I'm like, wait, like I'm just going to go to 2 Chick-fil-A's and you got to get to school. And that's like messing the whole thing up. Like I do not like that. And I was frustrated. You can ask her. I was frustrated because she messed up, and I created a habit on Wednesdays on the month of January, to always go to Chick-fil-A. But she messed that up, that it kind of messed me up emotionally a little bit because I was frustrated at her. I forgave her because I love her. I love you a lot, but I forgave her because of that. But we create these habits. We do. When we're talking to friends, when it gets kind of awkward, we pull out our phones, like for some weird reason. Like there's nothing on your phone. You just checked Snapchat and no one sent you a snap back. No one liked your photo, but you just pull out your phone and you want to check your Instagram. Like why? You just looked at it. And once again, I have that bad habit because Jenny has called me out on it on meetings when we go, and Chris has too. He's like, you always pull out your phone during the meeting, and you never know what's going on. I do, but it's just when I'm not paying attention, my habit is just to pull out my phone. I don't know why, but I just have that habit, but I'm going to explain to you why I do that, okay? So Duke University is very interesting to me. Duke University did a study on habits, and they came to the conclusion that 40% of our life, right, from when you're born, well, not when you're born, but when you are old enough to create habits, I guess. I don't know what age that is. They didn't say. But from when you die, 40% of your life is lived through habits. And you're kind of thinking to yourself, so what? It's just a habit. But here's the interesting things about habits, is that our brain is constantly learning. It's constantly trying to make shortcuts for ourselves so our brain does not overload. So when we do something over and over and over again, it creates a habit for us. It's very interesting that it makes us not even think about it. Does it make us think about it? Like for some of you adults, you guys can back me up on this. Have you ever driven through traffic, wherever, and then all of a sudden you like looked up or you snapped out of it, and you're like, how in the world did I just get here? Right? Like, it's just, we create a habit of always going that direction that our brain made a shortcut and says, I got this. I'm going to put you on autopilot so you can think about getting free Chick-fil-A, and I'm going to get you to Chick-fil-A. Like, you don't have to worry about it, right? So our brain creates shortcuts for us, which makes us go into autopilot. So when you do your habit, you're not even thinking about it. That's why they're so powerful. Think of it like the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon wasn't formed in a week. It wasn't formed in a month. It wasn't formed in a year. The Colorado River had to run through those rocks for a very long time. And after it was so deep, no matter how much water you throw into the Grand Canyon, the water will always flow the way it's formed. It will always flow the direction of the river. The same way with you, when you create a habit, when you create a pattern for yourself, your brain makes that same connection and turns your brain into autopilot, and you're not even thinking about it, and you're doing an action. That's why you can't stop yourself from doing something when you know you don't want to do it. Let me give you another illustration. There's going to be a video played in the background. I went to school, Ozark Christian College, and they're in Joplin, Missouri. And when it was my second year there, by my second year, I knew everything about the city. And a couple of years ago, and it was kind of fuzzy, but it's the best video I can kind of show you. The bottom one is after a tornado hit an F6. They couldn't categorize it as an F6, but it was so huge, it literally destroyed half the city. But I was so used to driving with the trees, and I knew landmarks. My brain knew the signs, knew everything, that I knew where to turn. I knew everything, but this happened in June. This happened 2 days after I left Ozark to go on summer break. And when I came back, this is what I saw at the bottom. Everything just completely destroyed. I worked at a Taco Bell on Main Street, and I knew all the landmarks beside it. And I remember coming through and saying, where's the Taco Bell? I have no idea where I am. I can see the street signs that say this is 32nd Street, this is 31st Street, but my mind could not comprehend where I was. I felt lost because my mind created a shortcut to say, when you get to this road, you're going to see trees, you're going to see this sign, and I know where you are because I created a shortcut for you. But after the tornado hit, my brain was like, what's going on? Like, there's no tree there. There's no sign. There's no like weird like break in the road. There's no bump. Like, what's going on here? I have no idea where I am, but I knew where I was. The thing is that habits are powerful. And that's what I want to get through you guys tonight, is that habits are powerful. They could either be tremendously good habits, or they could be tremendously bad habits. There's no neutral habits because of the shortcut that our brain makes in our brain. There's either good habits or bad habits. This is why when we sin and we get into the habit of sinning, this is what Jesus has to say in John 8:34. Here's what it says. It says, Jesus replied, "Very truly, I tell you, everyone who sins is a slave to sin." A slave has to do what the master says. And when you do a habit that is sinful, you're always going to go back to it because you are creating a shortcut to it and you're becoming a slave to it. It's right there in the Bible. It's made it so clear to us that these bad habits that could be sinful habits are really hard to break because we're literally becoming slaves to sin. And I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where you know you don't want to sin. You know that every single time you hang out with that friend, you do something that you don't want to do, but at the same time, you still want to hang out with them. But you're saying, this time, I'm not going to do it. This time, I'm not going to spread gossip. This time, I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm going to tell myself I'm not going to do it. But something about being with that friend creates a habit that you just want to, like, let everything out. Something about that friend just makes you want to tear them down, maybe because of the way that you hang out with them. Something about that friend that when you hang out with them, you guys always do the same thing over and over again, but you're telling yourself, I'm not going to do it. Paul writes about this. This is in Romans chapter 7. This is what it says. This is, I don't really understand myself. You guys ever been there? I don't really understand myself, for I want to do what is right, but I don't do it. I want to do what is right, but I don't do it. Instead, I do what I hate. I do what I hate. I want to do what is right, but I can't. I just can't. I want to do what is good, but I don't. I don't want to do what is wrong, but I do it anyway. Oh, what a miserable person I am. Who will free me from this life that is dominated by sin and death? Paul knew that when we create a habit, a sinful habit, we know that it's bad for us, but we continue to go back to it, even though we know, if I'm on my phone late at night, I know that I'm going to look at the same thing. I know that I'm going to go look at whatever website. I know what I'm going to look at that Instagram page. I know I'm going to keep going back, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to go there. I know that if I hang out with a friend or I start texting this person, we're going to start talking about you-know-who. We're going to start some drama up, but I don't want to do it. But at the same time, like, I don't know what to do with myself. Like, why do I keep going back to these things? It's because we're creating bad habits and good habits because habits are powerful. When you do a pattern, an unusual pattern, over and over again, you're creating a shortcut, and it's really hard to change your brain because habits are powerful. Here's what I kind of want to end tonight with. Because I think some of us are in this place where we do want to change, like Paul says. We want to do what is right. We come to church. We listen to our small group leaders. They tell us, hey, here's how you can become a better friend. Here's how you can forgive others. Here's how you can serve others. Here's how you can love others. And they tell you how to do it. Heck, you even go away for a whole week when you go to junior high camp or CIY move. And you high schoolers who have been to multiple CIYs, you know what I'm talking about. You get this high of feeling Jesus. You're telling yourself, yes, like I needed to hear this. This is changing me. How I feel about myself, how I need to pursue God more. But then all of a sudden, when you come back home, you come back to what's familiar. You come back to the same patterns, and your brain starts creating these shortcuts for you, and you start doing these bad habits over and over again, and you're telling yourself, why is this happening? I'm literally sowing a seed. Some of you guys are sowing seeds out there because you do want to become a better person. You do want to become a person who encourages people. You're throwing out those seeds. You're wanting to not lie anymore to your parents or to your friends. You're even telling yourself, hey, I don't want to create any more drama, because it seems like every single time I make a new friend or I meet new people, drama always follows me. And you're sowing this seeds of like, no more drama, no more drama. But then all of a sudden, you go back to your bad habits and you come back to these seeds that you've sown and you didn't change anything about it. And it's a little bit different. It's like you sowing pumpkin seeds and expecting it to come for an apple tree to pop up. It's just not going to change. If we continue to have the same habits over and over again and expect something different to come out, it just won't happen. It's not going to happen. And some of you high schoolers right now who are thinking about going to college, going elsewhere, and you're not creating good habits for yourself, but you're telling yourself, hey, I'm sowing the seed right now. I'm coming to church. I'm coming to small group, and I'm going to get connected to a church when I leave here. But you do nothing about it, and you go off to college. And I know a lot of people, friends of mine, who even went to Ozark Christian College, who went to a ministry college, who told themselves that they were going to be different, but they didn't change any of their habits, that they literally came out of ministry. They didn't want to do ministry anymore because of this. So the one thing that I want you to remember tonight is that habits are powerful. You heard the saying, practice makes, but it doesn't, because practice makes permanent. Practice makes permanent. The habits that you choose to do today are going to impact your future. And there's lots of adults in the world that wish that they could have better habits when they're in your position right now as a junior hire, as a high schooler, to create good habits so that they can be blessed where they are right now. Some of you guys do have a bad habit, and you're in the place where you don't want to do these bad things anymore. We're going to have some adults in the back that will want to listen to you. We have loving, caring adults that want to pray for you, that want to listen to what is going on in your life. And if you have a situation where you're going back to the same bad habits, let our adults pray for you. Tell an adult about it so that we can know how to give you advice, how to give you wisdom. But if you're not in that place where you're not thinking that you don't have a bad habit, but you want to be prayed for something else, they're still going to be back there. They're still going to care for you. They're still going to pray for you. They're still going to listen to you. Let me pray for you guys as we continue to worship tonight. Father God, I thank you for tonight. I thank you for these students. Lord, I pray that they are aware of the habits that they do have. And some of the students right now who texted in these serious habits that they do want to break. I pray, Lord, that you would just allow them to tell someone about it. To tell an adult or a friend who could help them out, give them wisdom on it. And in the coming weeks, we're going to learn different ways to break bad habits, to create good habits in our life. I pray for those students right now, Lord, that you would just move them as we continue to worship tonight, to just go and talk to an adult, to be prayed for, to be cared about. For these other students, Lord, that are not thinking that the habits that they have right now, that it's no big deal, that it's really not bad. I pray, Lord, that you would convict them of that and allow them to realize that these bad habits are only going to get stronger, because these habits are powerful and can change their life forever. Lord, again, Lord, I thank you for tonight, and I thank you for your son. Praise things in your son's name. Amen.